Please welcome to the stage, Managing Director of State Strategies, Melissa Johnson.
So good morning. Welcome back to the Skills Summit. I saw some of you all go to drinks and to dinner last night, and you made it back here this morning. That is always a good thing, right? So yesterday we kicked things off with a lot of great discussions, including a very crucial and timely plenary on narratives and another great one on centering student and worker voice. And today, we're doing the same thing. We're going to have some great plenary discussions, and in between, some great concurrent sessions as well. We're starting first with the fight for skills and good jobs in the states, and we'll have, like I said, 2 more great plenary discussions as well today. But first, I have the distinct honor and privilege of presenting the Dr. Alma Salazar Bridge Builder Award. The Dr. Alma Salazar Bridge Builder Award was established by National Skills Coalition's Board of Directors in 2021 in memory of their beloved fellow board member and one of the most important leaders in the organization's history. Many of us who had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Alma Salazar know that she was a light in every room that she entered, and as the award signifies, a bridge builder. The award is given annually to a member of NSC's network who exemplifies Alma's commitment to bring together uncommon allies in support of inclusive skills policy and connecting people with different perspectives who didn't know they could find common cause. This year's awardee is Dave Stone, Advocacy Officer with the United Way of Central Iowa. Dave is one of NSC's most consistent and long-standing advocates for skills and supports. He is, as he would say, one of the OG, the original state coalition leaders for National Skills Coalition, Skills State Policy and Advocacy Network. And I'm sure OG, when you hear OG, that's exactly what you were thinking, right? He has led the Iowa Skills to Compete Coalition for 6 years, carving time from his busy schedule as an advocacy officer with the United Way to do the important work of bringing people together across many different organizational priorities to defend and advance policies that help people to reach their goals and potential. Across the years, Dave has brought together organizations like the Iowa Business Council, along with the Iowa Federation of Labor, United Ways across Iowa, the Iowa Caregivers Association, and more, to protect and deepen, where possible, investments in Iowa's workers and learners. And they've been effective, eking out hard-fought defensive and proactive policy wins over the years. In 2018, before there was even an NSC-branded skills span coalition in the state, he worked with a wide range of people across Iowa to resolve the child care assistance cliff effect by moving eligibility levels to 250% above the poverty line. Since then, the Iowa Skills to Compete Coalition also successfully advocated for the expansion of Iowa SNAP employment and training program to nonprofit training providers. And in 2024, they were able to again expand access to child care. And did I mention he was doing all of this work in Iowa? This is a state where fiscally conservative hardly does it justice, right? Where defense of existing investments is a battle in and of itself, and where one has to get creative to find ways to go on the offense for workers and learners and unite people in the process, and Dave has done just that. And then on top of all of that, he has faithfully served as the Iowa delegation lead for the Skills Summit for multiple years, making those crucial state and federal connections for the Iowa delegation and helping members of the Iowa delegation do the same for their federal policymakers. So for all of this and more, Dave Stone is this year's Dr. Alma Salazar Bridge Builder Award winner. Please join me in congratulating him.
Well, thank you, Melissa, and good morning, everyone. Let me start by saying how absolutely humbled and honored I am to receive this award, the 2025 Dr. Alma Salazar Bridge Builder Award. I would like to thank the Board of Directors of NSC, the amazing staff that is the backbone of this organization, and of course you, our national partners that make up the core of this movement. Now, as Melissa said, I am an OG member of this coalition, and as she also mentioned, I'm from the very swing state of Iowa. And so I very much appreciate these convenings since it's a little bit of a safe space and oftentimes a little bit of therapy as well. There's a long-running joke with NSC staff about how it's so difficult to travel to or from Iowa, and I know Melissa had those troubles many years ago as well. From being stuck on the side of the road in Detroit to flying the wrong way across the country to get to Nashville. Let me tell you, this coalition is worth the effort. For you to come here today and spend your time amongst our peers to lend your voice, this coalition is worth it. It is because of you, though. The expertise, the knowledge, the strategies all of you have shared with me over the years, the learning and the friendships, the connections I've made, I will be forever grateful. Now more than ever, we must strengthen and unite our coalition to raise worker voices, to promote and advocate policies, strategies, and programs that make real impact for families nationwide. Together, we have made so much progress in this area, and now we must lean in, center workers in the conversation, strengthen our movement, and unite so that everyone can thrive. We have tremendous opportunity in the coming years, but only if we continue to build these bridges together. On behalf of United Way and myself, I really appreciate receiving this award, and thank you so very much, and have a great day on the Hill tomorrow. Thank you.
Skills training and workforce policies have long been an important component of the manufacturing sector. Our community benefits from these programs because it makes students, parents, teachers, and the whole community aware of the excellent opportunities that are available in manufacturing, and it provides a way for students to access training that they need to develop some foundational skills that can make them successful in this important industry. I don't know where we'd be without these policies and workforce training, and they've really made a difference over the years, and I certainly hope that we continue to fund and support these programs. I think that telling stories about the success of workforce and skills training programs can be very helpful in cutting through all of the chaotic noise and clutter out there and bringing people back to the local level where real people are holding jobs in manufacturing and healthcare and infrastructure, and they're only doing so because of the important workforce policies that we've had in the past and skills training. So we need to keep up our efforts and don't let up.
The importance of skills training and the importance of telling stories about skills training. And we are going to transition now to the rest of this plenary discussion, and I am very excited about it. And for those of you all who don't know me, I'm pretty cool and calm and collected most of the time, so yes, this is me excited, right? In this plenary, we are going to hear from some very dynamic state policy leaders and advocates who are working in very different policy environments to both protect and advance bold workforce and skills policies that create real opportunities for workers and businesses. And our hope is that this discussion gives you insights, language, and perspectives to take not only into your planning for your Hill meetings that we'll do later today, but it also gives you some actionable ideas to strengthen your own advocacy efforts back in your respective states. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome on the stage Simon Lopez, who's the New Mexico Program Officer with the Asset Funders Network, and he's another very faithful partner and champion of NSCs with very deep roots in New Mexico. And Simon will introduce our next speaker. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you, Melissa. First, I have to start off, those of you that are parents here and you left kids behind, I have a 17-year-old son, and he just sent me a text that said, "Can I use the stove, oven, and microwave at the same time?" And I'm like, why? You don't cook. So I have this image in my head of like the water running, the house on fire, the doors all open, and so I'm trying to recenter myself. Sorry. But it's great to see you all here. I think I've known NSC since maybe 2002 or 2003 when I was here in DC. I was working with Unidos US at the time, and I know Luis from Unidos is here today. And then made my way to Chicago, and I've spent some time in Southern California with Goodwill Southern California, still involved with NSC. And in California, I got to be part of the California Worker Equity Initiative, a statewide coalition that really came together to help inform and create a more equitable workforce system based on principles of racial, gender, and worker equity. And then the pandemic hit, and I, like a lot of other people, started thinking about where do I need to be, who do I need to be by, and that's my family in New Mexico. And I have 8 brothers and sisters and a giant family that has lived in the same neighborhood since the late 1600s. And so when that happened, I made my way back to New Mexico. Very unique place with incredibly rich history and culture, where land and water are sacred and where family and community are everything. And since being back in New Mexico the last couple of years, one of the special projects that I've had the honor and joy to be part of is the New Mexico Worker Equity, somewhat modeled after the California Worker Equity Initiative. It's a statewide network of organizations engaging folks, educating folks on creating a more equitable workforce system and creating opportunities for all workers. And I have to give a shout out to the New Mexico groups that are here, because we haven't historically had a strong New Mexico contingent here, and we're really excited that we have that group, not only to learn from you all, but we think we have a lot to share in creating equitable systems. So I'm really quickly going to give a shout out to the members that are here: Somos un Pueblo Unido, Community Action Agency of Southern New Mexico, the New Mexico Black Leadership Council, the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition, and the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy and Workforce Training Center. So please join me in welcoming them here to this. And if you want an example, examples of real community power building and ensuring that communities and workers, that we're not only representing them, but including them in the process, you want to talk to some of these groups. And Somos, I'm just going to share a really quick story. At the state legislature 2 years ago, you all were having trouble talking with one of the state representatives, so they had people posted up outside of all the women's bathrooms because they were like, she's got to go to the bathroom at some point. We're going to catch her at some point. So they were just camped out by all the bathrooms and all the exits. But that's how we do it. So, that's why I'm here today, is through the New Mexico Worker Equity Initiative, and that's how I got to know our speaker through that work. Sarita Nair is the Cabinet Secretary for the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions, which is our State Department of Labor. She oversees the state's unemployment insurance program, employment services, labor law enforcement, labor market information, and all WIOA-funded programs. The department houses the State Apprenticeship Council, Serve New Mexico, and the Human Rights Commission, And she's led the launch of a number of innovative and really critical programs, including the Energy Transition Act, Displaced Worker Program, and pre-apprenticeships. And if that wasn't enough, I think this is all public information, but the department is now going to oversee the state's housing efforts. So just add, another little project on there. But before becoming the cabinet secretary, she was leading the city of Albuquerque, and she was the chief administrative officer, overseeing 22 departments and a city budget of $1.2 billion. She holds a law degree and master's of community and regional planning from the University of New Mexico, and a bachelor's degree in African American studies from Wesleyan University, which is an impressive bio, absolutely. But I think more importantly, she's been a strong advocate for equitable access to resources and opportunities for all workers. And she's been an invaluable partner to the New Mexico Worker Equity Initiative and its members and partners, working side by side on brainstorming about design ideas, systems ideas, and at times even advocating with us at the state legislature. So a lot of the work that we have accomplished, a lot of the things that we have accomplished as a group, a lot of the progress that our community has made is in part due to the partnership and commitment from Secretary Nair. So thank you for all that you do. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Sarita Nair.
Good morning. Nice, you're all awake. Thank you, Simon, for that gracious introduction, and the National Skills Coalition for inviting me, especially Melissa, for making it so easy to participate, and to the New Mexico Worker Equity Initiative, who has been an amazing partner. I want to start by acknowledging how truly terrible things are right now in this country. We are all trying to live in the right balance of despair and anger and kindness and action and reflection, and I really appreciate your grace if I don't hit the right balance today. Another balance I've been struggling with is this. Sometimes it's absolutely paramount that we hold tight to our core values and stay the course. But at other times, we have to be able to recognize a unique moment, pivot in response to that moment, and move quickly. So when do we hunker down and when do we leap? In New Mexico, we've seen the tremendous power of holding tight to one of those core values, that education is sacrosanct and a way to lift families out of poverty. Now, that may seem trite, but it has not always been an easy truth for us. Education has been used as a tool of colonial oppression to divide people from their language and culture and families. And for the past 20 years or so, despite widely varying educational policies, we have remained near the bottom in nearly every quantitative measure of education. So frankly, there are many times it would have been easier to pivot. But the communities and advocates and the elected leaders they put in power held tight to this core belief. And that belief drove decades of organization and advocacy, which led New Mexico to enact the first constitutional right to an early childhood education with a multi-billion-dollar trust to make the promise of universal access a reality. Yeah, go New Mexico! That belief and advocacy also got us tuition-free college for many New Mexicans, and the fight continues to extend that benefit to all of our people. In my work, the value I cling most tightly to is actually a design principle. Basically, when you're designing anything, if you design for the most vulnerable user of that thing, you achieve the best results. The textbook example is a sidewalk that is wide and well-maintained, free of obstructions, with ramps at the intersections. Now, that sidewalk may be that way because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but everyone benefits: families, dogs, skateboarders, even cars. And that goes for cities and products, but it also goes for systems. And here's where it gets tough, because the workforce system, while spilling a lot of ink about disengaged and at-risk people, is most certainly not designed by or for the most vulnerable people in our communities. For too many of us, it is that narrow, potholed sidewalk that ends abruptly and forces us out onto the street. And this is where holding steadfastly to that design principle becomes so important. We are going to see funding cuts at the federal level. We are going to perceive more and more risk in serving communities. We are going to receive order after order that forces us to ask ourselves whether holding on to those core principles is worth potentially losing a lot of money that could help a lot of people. And you have to answer these questions for yourself, but my answer is this. It's my responsibility as a user of taxpayer dollars to build and operate the strongest and most efficient workforce system possible. And the best way to do that is to design it for the most vulnerable users. That's why in the coming year, we will invest in building a system of training and supports for people who are ineligible for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act with purely state money. This includes, thank you. This includes immigrants without work authorization as well as the many others who need our help but do not shoehorn into the rigors of the WIOA elaborate rules. We are going to start in communities overburdened by fossil fuel industries and prove that we can expand it. And this was not my idea, by the way. It was brought to me by the community, and specifically Somos un Pueblo Unido. And even though there will be pressure to do other shiny, new, less risky things with the state money that we are devoting to this, we are going to hold tight to our core values and press on. Through this project, we're going to live our belief that by evolving to meet the needs of these marginalized communities, we are actually building a better workforce system for everyone. Now, the tension is with this other pole. You also have to be able to recognize what I call a smash and grab. And while we're in the middle of a multi-trillion-dollar smash and grab by the oligarchy of our country, that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the smash and grab that we all have and how to make the most of it. I frame the opportunity this way. In the smash and grab moment, we have to create something that was unpopular before, but can be popular now, even though it may be unpopular again. We have to be fast and agile enough, we gotta get going strong, and we have to collect data so that when the moment is gone, we can make the case for why the work should continue. In New Mexico, a key window of opportunity has been the labor shortage, and this is something that many of us in this room share. Even in states with high unemployment rates, there are still often more vacancies than there are unemployed people looking for work. And this means that employers and workers are aligned in ways that they have not always been. Businesses need workers, and they're willing to look at strategies and applicants that they haven't historically wanted to use. When this dynamic was peaking in the fall of 2022, we seized on the moment to deploy $5 million in ARPA funds to build a flexible pre-apprenticeship program. With minimal guidelines rather than elaborate eligibility rules, we put 300 participants through the program in its first year. We collected data and success stories to shore up continued state funding. And now the program is so flexible that we're able to use it to absorb some of the pain of the AmeriCorps cuts. We also use the labor shortage to start our Office of New Americans, to expand reentry programs, and to dedicate state funding to support registered apprenticeship. Because these programs actually work, the window is closing, and the gap between unemployed and vacancies is now half of what it was in August 2022. These particular pivots were successful. Sorry, I lost my little place here. So how do you know what type of situation you're in, the hunker down or the pivot and leap? Well, I can only tell you how I decide, and that is to recenter that question in love. We aren't going to pivot away from immigrant communities because we love them. We are going to pivot towards opportunities for disengaged youth because, well, we love them. We're human, and our default decision maker is fear, unless there's something stronger. And love is the only thing I know to be consistently stronger than fear. Have I made mistakes from a place of love? Oh yes, I've made mistakes in all the ways, but in general, love works. And listening is an act of love. We have to listen to each other in the communities that we serve, not because we're checking the box for a community meeting, but because we love them. New Mexico passed a law in 2019 that requires companies that are closing fossil fuel power plants to contribute to a displaced worker assistance fund. And for the first closure subject to the law, our team put together this amazing plan for training with support services and stipends. We were so excited about it. But at a community meeting in the Nenenezad chapter of the Navajo Nation, entire families of coal miners came out and told us that what they needed was just plain money. Money for COBRA payments and money for the costs that come from two people working in a family where historically only one had needed to work. I believed them, and I knew it was the right thing to do, but I was honestly a little nervous when I shared these stories and asked Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham to let us give $12 million to direct payments to those workers. Not only did she say yes, she contributed another $15 million of her budget set aside so we could also do all those cool training programs. To me, that experience was a testament in listening to the people you're supposed to serve, and also one of the many great examples of how Governor Lujan Grisham's faith in those same people has served us well. Now, when someone I love asks me for something I have, I get it for them. I get it for them. I don't send them to another location to fill out another form, to explain why they need it over and over again. So we have to build navigation systems that treat our participants with love. In New Mexico, we're investing in an aligned case management system that we hope someday straddles not just workforce, but benefits, healthcare, and eventually even housing. And can I tell you, it's already a complete nightmare. We are already dealing with incompatible systems, competing vendors, entrenched bureaucracy, and underfunding. If we don't come to every aligned case management meeting from a place of love, we're not going to get anywhere close, and we are going to give up. And this is not the time to give up. This is the time to find your windows of opportunity to jump through, and for everything else, to hold tight to your beliefs and keep going. Thank you.
So I told you all I was excited, right? I'm keeping it up. Thank you so much to Secretary Nair, and lucky for you all, she will be sticking around a bit today. And now we're going to hear some different perspectives from some more fantastic coalition leaders. So I'm happy to be joined on stage by Therese Daly, who's President and Chief Executive Officer of the United Way of New York State, and Danielle Barringer-Payton, who's the Director of the Opportunity Youth Coalition of Invest in Louisiana. Please join me in welcoming them on stage.
Step one. We were saying we were happy that we made it up the stairs okay. Step one. It's already going really well.
So we are going to jump right into it because we packed a lot of things in this morning plenary. So as the leader of a state coalition for both of you all, I'm really curious about what parts of Secretary Nair's comments resonated the most with you, and feel free to take a step back and describe your coalition work in your answers.
Go ahead.
I was prepared to go second.
I can go. Okay. Then I'll go.
I was going to start with Therese
perfect.
and go
Great.
to Danielle.
Well, first of all, Secretary Nair, I wanted to say thank you because we need more of you. So if you could duplicate yourself in 50 states, that'd be great. But thank you.
Louisiana.
Yes. And also thank you to NSC for bringing us together in this plenary. I'm so excited to be here. So one thing that really resonated was the fact that we cannot back down. Mm-hmm. That is something, even when everything may be going against us, we cannot let the system win and break down our spirit. And we're going through that in New York. You know, it's no secret that the Trump administration has it out for New York in some way. And everywhere we turn, we're getting cuts, pause, doors shut in our faces, metaphorically and literally. And we have to keep fighting. We have to keep fighting, and we have to take care of ourselves. And I will say that to all of you in the process, to take care of yourself, because you cannot fight for others if you are not engaging yourself. I would say when I was with NIATEP, I switched jobs in January, but when I was with NIATEP, we worked on the income disregard legislation. And so much of what you said, Secretary Nair, really resonated with that effort. At NIATEP, we legalized the idea of a person being able to work 6 months while getting their public assistance, but being able to engage and learn and have a new career that was, their income was disregarded for that 6 months. So they were allowed to get their benefits, because otherwise, if they got their benefits removed, if they made 1 cent over what they would make in the training, essentially. So we got that created into law, and we took a giant stab at ending the cycle of poverty in New York, because we allowed people, we believed in New Yorkers and said, we want you to do that training, we want you to go to the next step. No, it wasn't easy getting all 150 assembly members and 63 senators. As you know, you have 213 legislators you need to believe in the project that you're working on. And it took a lot of work, and we knocked on a lot of doors and reached out to a lot of industries. But so much of what Secretary Nair said is that we need to work together. And I can tell you in New York, that's the only reason why we have the income disregard.
Awesome. And I'm going to turn to you, Danielle, to talk more about like what parts of Secretary Nair's comments resonated with you as well.
So much of it resonated. A lot of it has to do with relationship building and having your relationship with your elected officials. One thing that we've learned in Louisiana is that resources are scarce, and they're getting even scarcer. So we have to rely on our relationships. We have to forge relationships with other nonprofit organizations, with state agencies, with our elected officials. We have to know that our message is being heard, and we have to latch on to people who have common messages. And that way we can use the best, we can utilize our resources the best. It does not make sense for us all to tackle the same problem the same way. If we have someone who's in our coalition who does mental health, and that's one of our advocacy points too, let them lead the way, and we provide support to them. So that way, those resources that we had designated for that, we can utilize that somewhere else. And that way we can reach more hands, reach more lands. We can just kind of like, our work can go further that way. And just even like staying engaged with our elected officials, the way that y'all were able to listen to the people to hear what they needed, and you were able to react that way, that does not happen without relationships. It does not happen without relationships with your elected officials. And even though these are trying times, and they are not always the easiest people to communicate with or to reach out with, there is someone in there that is. And if you make that connection to them, they might be the door to get into the hard offices. And make sure that you just lean into that.
Awesome. So we've talked about narratives yesterday. We talked about being bold and sticking with it, even through tough times, and having your policy ideas, creating relationships. And I love, Simon, even your practicality in terms of manning the bathrooms. Like, sometimes you got to get creative about the tactics too. So we're pulling it all together for folks. As much as we can learn from one another, right, in terms of like learning what to do right, we also know that each state's policy makers and political climate differs, right? And I'm sitting right next to Danielle, who's from Louisiana, if I didn't say that already, right? So Louisiana's political climate is a bit different. So I would love for you all to talk about how your political climate differs in your particular states and what are the implications for that work. And I'm saying this because I've been in you all's shoes, right? You hear some great things and inspiring things from a visionary leader like Secretary Nair, and you're like, great, now how do I get that? Like, like you were saying, Therese, like, how do I clone that in my state? So that's where we're going to get into now. Like, Danielle, could you start us off in terms of like, what's different and how your approach is different?
Let me start by saying I'm quite envious. Louisiana is different. We're a triple red state. We have local, state, and federal that are very conservative. They have supermajority in our legislators, so the ability to communicate and to reach out has been very difficult because there is not a need to work across the aisle right now. But that means you have to be creative with how you tackle problems. And where we might have had a very progressive agenda, now we're kind of pivoting and doing other things. We're utilizing this time to forge relationships and lay some groundwork there. We're looking at nonpartisan issues, things that no one can deny that affect everyone within the state, like broadband. Like, you know, some people do not have Al Gore's internet. And I mean, we all have it on our cell phones, but that's not the norm everywhere in Louisiana. Transportation, like, it's great if we offer all these programs, but if they don't have a way to get there, we have places that do not have buses, they don't have Uber, they don't have Lyft, they don't have taxis. So if we pour resources there for these programs and they can't get there, that's a misuse of our resources, but it's also like, we're not serving them. So we have to be creative in how we do that. And some of the things that we were able to do were last legislative session, we worked with Senator Duplessis. He's great. If you ever go to Louisiana, New Orleans, make sure you run into Royce. He's going to say, hey. But he authored a task force for us. And it was the Opportunity Youth Task Force. And on that task force, we were able to get LIFT experts to be a part of it. So we had Opportunity Youth themselves on there. We had state agency leads. We had elected officials that were a part of it. And we were able to get everybody to the table to discuss things. And it was eye-opening for everyone. And they were so impressed by the LIFT experts that were able to come and talk about their problems because, as we know, the people who are closest to the problem have the best resources because they're already making do. And if we can get everybody into the room that way, it can trickle down into policy. And that's kind of what we're kind of experiencing this year. So right now what we're doing is working on our relationship building with elected officials, where we're making the stops in their offices, we're going to the legislature, we're talking to them, because eventually we're going to get to a place where we're strong enough to come back with our policy agenda, but we want that foundation to already be laid so we don't have to start from the ground up in 2 years or next year when we're like, hey, we want this workforce innovation training thing going on. They already know who we are, they already know our faces, and then that way that bridge will be a little bit easier to build.
That's great. You said something in our prep call that I'm just going to remind you of right now if you want to go more about it, because you said something about if your goal right now is to change people's minds, find a new goal.
Yes.
Yes. That is your goal in today.
Yes.
In 2025, you need to find a different goal. Like, so we have to be like realistic in what a win is for us. Yes. So a few years ago, a win might have been getting legislation passed, and right now a win might just be making it into the office, having a conversation, having the ability to do your leave behinds and leave cards behind, letting them know who you are if they can see your face. Like, that could be a win right now. And it's okay. It's a small win. But, you know, we have to take victory in all of the wins, however they come. And then you need to use this time to make those relationships, plant seeds. So that way, when you're watering them right now with your relationship building, those seeds are going to grow when it's time for you to come with your next policy agenda. And that's just the world that we live in right now. Like, we have to be realistic, and that way we have realistic expectations.
I love that. I love that.
Thanks for the reminder.
It's
anytime. I typed it up because it was so good. It's a reminder that changing policy is such a long game, right? And kind of tying back to the narrative session yesterday, right? Sometimes we think we've got to come in with all of our defensive positions and kind of come in hot, right? But I loved what you said about that, because sometimes it's just about creating the relationship so that you can come back with your policy agenda at the right time. And so, Therese, I'm going to turn to you
Yes.
to talk about like New York's political environment and how that differs.
Absolutely. So nothing's going on in New York, by the way. It's so quiet. There's a lot going on. The political climate in New York, just so you know right now, the Democrats are becoming more Democratic and the Republicans are digging into becoming Republicans. So we're seeing a shift in the narrative. So that's happening. There's also a number of big races, and those races in bigger cities will determine the legislative agenda for them. My role as president and CEO of the United Ways for New York State is that I have to bring my 32 together on one legislative platform and then tell 213 state legislators what all 32 want, while at the same time working with our federal delegation. So something that we're doing now is we're really actually working on workforce because we want to build up the communities. I want a world where United Way is not needed. And I'm going to start that by building the bricks within the communities. But that offers pathways, quality jobs, childcare, wraparound services, transportation deserts, broadband. The list goes on and on. One thing that we did in the state budget that's going to get announced hopefully in the next few days is secure funding for a crisis hotline to actually expand. But that took individual briefings for constituent data to every single legislator. I did 213 briefings with constituent data based off of what the crisis was in their districts. Now that took a lot, but we got it.
Got it done.
So, thanks. So, and one thing I would say also to never disregard who you meet with when you meet with an elected official, because people tend to be in this sector, and I know people who started in the state or the county, and now they're in the federal government. I got a meeting with Representative Malliotakis that I never would have gotten if I wrote, ever. But I had written a recommendation for her intern back when they were in the Senate, in New York State Senate, and now we have a contact. So, and you know, I'm saying this to you, and you all know this, but treat everyone equally. Intern, just as big as the elected official, just as big as the chief of staff. And that has been something that has allowed me to be successful in the areas that I've focused on. And one other thing I would say is also, if there is an alarm bell going off, congregate, get people involved. After on that fateful Tuesday when President Trump paused all funding for nonprofits, actually, Greg Morris is here today from NYC-ETC, and we got on the phone, and we're like, we got to gather people. We got 270 people on one call. And we said, what the beep is going on? But we have 270 people that all felt better because we got on the phone, and we were all united. And now we have a mini coalition of people. So definitely when there's an alarm bell, and one last thing, they want you to be scared. They want you to panic, they want you to be scared. So when you meet with federal representatives, everything's fine. You're not scared, you're not gonna back down, you're gonna hit them with facts, data, and that's what is keeping New York going right now.
Awesome. So I'm gonna try something new in life and try to keep us on time. This is such a great discussion. I could sit in here and talk with you all every day. I could welcome Secretary Nair back on stage and have a great discussion. But like I said, I'm going to try something new and keep us on time here. So I hope that we have done what we set out to do in terms of giving you some insights, language, practical tips, right, to take into your prep for your Hill sessions. Later today, we will have another round of concurrent sessions following our networking break in a few minutes that you all can hear more of these stories as well. You all have gotten such great gems from these ladies today in terms of creating relationships, right? Looking out for the most vulnerable and centering folks, listening and hearing from workers and taking that into your policy advocacy, using the labor shortage as a frame building those relationships over time, treating everybody equally so that you have those relationships and connections. And once again, lucky for you all, this powerhouse group of women is going to be here all day. So as we go to this networking session, feel free to grab them aside. And like I said, right now we're going into a huge networking break, followed by another round of concurrent sessions. And I want you all to continue having a great summit. Please join me in thanking Therese and Danielle.